What's your name?
Gustra.
Who was it?
Gustra.
Gustra.
Yeah, bro.
Okay. And you're local?
I'm here.
You're here. You live around here? You're visiting here?
I'm living right now, bro. I'm just here.
Okay.
I'm passing through at the moment.
Okay. And right now on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I'd never ever go vegan, I'm gotta eat meat every meal 3 times a day, or 10 being I'm gonna go vegan right now, where would you place yourself on that scale?
10, I'm going vegan right now. Is that at the top of the scale?
Yeah.
Well, a large part of it's monetary related, and ease of access and ease of community support. The other thing is, the wholesomeness of the community. So there's a lot of, I'm not really attracted to the vegan community. There's no real honouring of the masculine within it to me. There's no real honouring of the warrior archetype, and those two things which I really relate to. So I associate with the vegan community in order to learn how to be more vegan, so to speak. I think there's a lot of great value in that, but it's like Christianity. I think there's a lot of great value in Jesus' teachings, but the Christians don't consider me a Christian.
Okay. So from the perspective of the vegan community, and you identify. Oh. So well, actually, let's get back to. So on the scale of 1 to 10, where would you put yourself?
Probably a 5 to 6.
Okay, so right in the middle. So you've looked into it a little bit?
I've done it.
You've done it for about how long?
7 months.
Okay, and how'd that work out?
I actually nearly went breatharian once for 7 months as well, and that was another kettle of fish altogether.
Okay.
I mean, I was eating a little packet of rice and dal each day as well. Had to occur there, and as I was mindful of that and sitting down on this chair, I was acknowledging the consciousness within this chair, and it's like when I carve rocks at times. Well, I work with rocks, so I work with them as another being, another part of all that is. And so when I do that, I usually communicate with them and say, hey, I want to do this. How do you feel about that? Or hey, can I take you from this river? I want to take you from this river or wherever, and take you with me and see what comes in and wants to show itself. So I'm really acknowledging the relationship between us as beings. So I'm a human being, maybe we could label them a rock being. And for my experiences within the vegan community, and I have to acknowledge that that's my experience, and that might be very different to your experience. So, we've got this co-creative thing going on as well, and this karmic reflection thing. So who am I as an energetic being right now? What am I carrying, in my energy field, and what is that reflecting? So what am I coming into contact with? And so my experience with the vegans that I've come in contact with is that they've been very critical of people who are at that part of their journey where they're consuming meat, and being critical is fine, providing it's done with a real consciousness of love and an awareness. But when we do it from a righteous position and we don't acknowledge that the other person, the other being is at a different part of their journey, we're very much more possibility that we're not going to create what we want to create. I mean, if we're talking to people about our vegan theory, then our theory is really about trying to create more harmony within our world, I would say. And if we're going to do that, then we want the people to hear what we're trying to share. And if we're being critical in an unloving way or an unaccepting way of where they're at in that moment, and this all goes back to Jesus' teachings, I mean, Jesus just talked about love, so I've been itching to come across Brian, Tamaki, to have a conversation with him and say, hey bro, should we have a cup of tea and have a chat about gay people, for example, or some other subject, because Jesus didn't condemn anybody, no matter what they did, no matter what their expression. So, there's, and part of my experience, I've been very conscious, when I've asked a plant if I could have a flower and I haven't quite received the consent, and I've done, and same, I've come into the vegan community and I've seen this definite treasure there, things which help humanity, and not only humanity but all that is in Tēnei ao marama, this world of light. So as from a moral.
Now, if we compare veganism to vegans in the vegan community. We draw a line between these two things.
Okay.
Do you think there's parallels there between Jesus and Jesus' teachings versus Christians and the Christians community, whereas people might be pushed away from Jesus and Jesus' teachings by some groups of Christians in the Christians community?
What was that last thing you said?
Whereas some people might be drawn or take an interest in Jesus' teachings, but they might be pushed away from it by the Christian community and how the Christian community represents it. Do you think that there's parallels to that between veganism and the vegan community?
Absolutely. Please forgive me, brother, but what's your name again? Adam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gustro?
Yeah, Gustro. Yeah, Adam, brilliant question, mate. To me, that's a brilliant, really productive question, because you've hit the nail on the head. Because I say that because what I've experienced within the community is, and that's why I use that adjective creator. I use that adjective creator because as soon as I was using the word God, young fellas, people would just shut down. They just put up a wall. But as soon as I used another word, creator, I was like, oh, that's different. And they wouldn't associate that with Christianity. And I was like, well, okay, why, where do we get our information on Christianity? Because when I go into the different Christian communities, and I've gone there as a place to get medicine, to nurture myself and to provide some sort of wholesomeness or a more wholesome energy than other spaces, for example, like a nightclub. So for me, regardless of the expression that I was aware of, that the media told me about, and regardless of the expression that I had experienced in my direct life, I would still, because of what I'd read of Jesus, of the way that Jesus thought and what he supported, I was happy to go into the church because I saw the church as a place of worship and a holy and a sacred place. And when I went in there, I noticed that it didn't matter which church I went into, regardless of the quality of the sermon that was given, because I've heard very few great sermons, what I would consider really wholesome and productive sermons. Like you very rarely hear Matthew chapter 5 spoken. I've never heard Matthew chapter 5 spoken in the church. I've never really heard anything from Matthew, Mark, Luke or John. And it's like, seriously, why? Why are they not talking about some of the really wholesome things, the really beautiful guidance of Jesus within the churches? And I did hear that. Can I finish off on your question?
Yeah.
Because what I just outlined is very reflective of what I've experienced within the vegan community. And if the vegan community want the rest of the community, it's kind of like Christians. You don't see Christians out actually in the streets working with the grassroots people and actually trying to communicate, except for the Jehovah's Witness and the Mormons. They're still doing their door knocking stuff. And I take my hat off. And like I said at the beginning, I joined the raw vegan community so that I could be closer in contact, almost so that I could live in the library, so to speak, in the times when I was with those people. Because what I experienced was that those people that were in the community, well, not all of them, but some of them definitely had a great depth of awareness around diet and things, and how to manage their diet and how to keep their beings healthy. I feel like there's definitely some lessons which they haven't dealt with there yet, and it's largely connected around strong energy stuff, which is masculine and, for want of another adjective, and that's definitely not to say that feminine isn't powerful in its own right, and also the warrior archetype. Sorry, brother, I've lost focus on how I can answer your question more.
Have you come across any of the vegan bodybuilders who are online?
No, but I really enjoyed seeing them. And when I was doing bodybuilding, so to speak, going to the gym for the purpose of developing my physical body, on the raw vegan diet, it just went through the Richter scale. Absolutely through the Richter scale. I was just shredded. And the muscle growth, the muscle recuperation was absolutely like nothing I'd experienced before. And the ability to look after my well-being, should the power turn off, if I chose to store, mung beans, lentils, blue peas, buckwheat, etc. All these different things. I could store a bucket of each of those things, and combined, when sprouted, with coconut oil, spirulina, you're talking about a year, 2 years supply of food. You know, it's very easy to store, very low volume, and really nutritious. Yeah.
So I guess it comes back to
coconut oil, of course. But yeah. So veganism, I feel, is an absolutely fantastic diet, particularly raw vegan, even more so, and then of course breatharian. But again, it's about that support, creating that support for our people within our communities. And then how do we do it in more rural areas where the communities are much smaller and they're much, dare I say, conservative? I think that would be fair. Yeah.
So coming from...
So I'd still be 5 to 6.
Okay.
Yeah, because, you know, I mean, I've thought about this a lot, and I'm quite mindful of what stops me from doing it.
And what do you think it would take to get you up to a 7 or 8?
Other people to mind their own damn business rather than trying to affect my relationship with other human beings. You know, developing for people within the community to work on developing the strength of their own communication, because I feel that we've developed this cancellation culture whereby rather than actually, you know, somebody who has a challenge with something that they've experienced with us, rather than them actually communicating to us and saying, oh, hey, I've got a challenge, and even if they did it, you know, angrily or sadly or whatever, rather than peacefully, I think that would be far more productive, and working on eventually doing it peacefully rather than going and talking to somebody else and saying, I don't feel safe now, and getting that person that they had that experience with excluded from that part of their community. That is definitely not inclusive. It's not going to help us develop our communication. It is not going to help our people realise the benefits or the value of veganism. You know, nobody gets out of it.
And to what degree do you think that pushes you away from pursuing veganism in your own life?
Well, it's not welcoming. It doesn't welcome me into the vegan community. It's like, it doesn't reflect me. I've done a lot of work with all different aspects of myself. So, you know, I work my body. I'm a little bit slack on my cardio at the moment, but my base cardio is really high anyway. My diet has always been important to me since I was a little kid, so I have a pretty high quality diet, that is. And I've always connected with some form of spiritual practice and worked on dealing with my challenges and trying to find the strength and to grow, and had some form of spiritual practice in my life. So, or connected with people that have had some form of spiritual practice. It's the evolution of humanity.
Hey, thank you again.
Yeah, ngamihi, brother. Hongi, bro.